Good morning. Hand today's going to be pocket queens. We are on the button and we've got the hijack, the open raises, and I 3-bet. And then he's going to call. Let's look at this. I'm going to put up my raising range here. So this could be a typical raising range. And then I'd add in some stuff depending on the player. This is like against a typical player. But against a looser player, I'm probably going to 3-bet a little bit more widely. Not a whole lot, but that's pretty good. I think I would probably add in like 10s and 9s and maybe even like ace jack and king queen off, just to try to get them heads up. I don't want to call and then have two blind another player enter the pot and take some of that equity away from me. And I pay attention to like who's behind me. So this guy, not so much. He looks to be tight, but this guy's playing 27%. He could easily come in and see a flop cheaply. That's not the situation though. This player's playing 12%. And when we look at his range, I've got a range that looks something like this. This is 9%, and that's because when we look at his stats, he does look pretty darn tight just across the board. Cutoffs at 17%, buttons at 15%. Both of these are over 100 hands. We're going to say it's maybe like 16%. Could be as high as 20% from this spot. But definitely it looks like he's playing position. He's playing tight, which means that when we put together a range, it's got to be something tight like this. We could probably throw in like 9-8 as well, and 7-8, maybe get close up to 10%. And that is entirely possible. We don't know. So then against this tighter range, and I do think this is going to be a tighter range, I'm thinking about 3-betting only with this range here. I don't think I'm looking at like a 3-bet or call range. I think this is straight 3-bets or call. And you don't mess with 3-betting loose because villain's going to be somewhat tight. So I'm playing a pretty tight range here for a 3-bet against this tighter player. His fold to 3-bet stats 33, so that kind of tells you that when he raises, he probably has a hand. So if I raise, I think at this point he's getting rid of probably hands like that. We're gonna say he would have 4-bet with aces, and then I think we're gonna say like 50% chance. Yeah, 50% chance he would have 4-bet with kings. We do have 4-bets. We've got a 4-bet range of aces, so I think aces is good for a 4-bet, but I think he could have kings. So right there, we've gone from like 9.5% to 6.5%. I do think the pocket pairs are probably just going to call. That tends to be what players do. So tighter range here against us. We see a flop. So we see 10-4-3. Villain checks. I think we just go ahead and bet. We have a tight range, and our range figures to be stronger than villain. 54%. You could see that we don't really have a massive number of bluffs here, but if our value hands are those overpairs, that's 36, and that means in order to kind of get a balance, we're going to be raising the rest. So I think this is going to be a spot where we're basically 3-betting 100% of the time, or not 3-betting, c-betting. And on a board like this, I think it's probably maybe about half pot. Could be smaller. I guess we could go smaller to encourage some of these weaker pocket pairs, but we don't necessarily want to encourage that with the majority of our like ace king, ace queen hands. So I think half pot's going to probably be fine here on this board. And that's what I did. Did half pot and he called. So, what hands is he calling with here? I guess the question is, would he check raise it? Would he check raise? Got 900 hands on him. He check raised 1 out of 21. Yeah, I think a situation like this, check raising set, um, I think that's entirely possible. And then he check calls the rest. I also think overpairs quite possibly check raise, like jacks or queens. If he had queens himself or jacks, maybe even kings, he would go for a check raise, or maybe even lead. I don't even know if he's ever led out before as a donk. No, he hasn't. So we can have some of those as a check raise. And then I think he's definitely calling with those. He's probably getting rid of the rest of his like ace king, ace queen. Fold to c bets about 50%, and again, these are a little bit lower. I think because he's playing a tighter range, so he's less likely to fold. And we could do like a small, say 33% that he calls with like ace king. We'll do something like that. So I do think it's like we're looking at like a pocket pair, maybe an under pair or jacks or something like that. And jacks could have been a check raise too. So he calls. 4 comes out. I don't think that changes it. Sometimes I look at the board pairing. I'm like, okay, that's good because that counterfeits any double, two pairs that player have when I have like a overpair situation. So he checks, and I fire a third pot. So I think he's probably going to be checking everything to me. And then I still think we're going to continue at this point. I'm kind of thinking, I'm just trying to get more money in the pot at this point. We want some value, definitely. If I fire half pot again or larger, I kind of feel like any of those under pairs are just going to fold, like the 9s, 8s, 7s, 6s. They're going to fold. If I just go a little bit smaller, like a third, then perhaps I could entice 9s, 8s to call again. I'm not too worried about jacks or queens. They're going to call. Jacks are definitely a possibility. Queens are a possibility. Which would be unfortunate that he also has queens when I have queens, but it is what it is. Now we need some bluffs here, and we've got basically none. Maybe you bluff with ace king and you leave like ace queen in our range, or you bluff with like ace king suited and ace queen. I think we just need a little bit of balance here, so that's what my bet's going to be. And then we know he's going to call, so at this point, full house I think is just going to check call. I think an overpair is probably, if he didn't check raise on the flop, he's probably not going to check raise here. And I think with the sizing, we're going to entice this pocket pair less than the top pair. I think that's what we're going to do. So we've got, we're still slightly ahead. I mean, it's those smaller pairs are what's helping us. All right, so he calls. Ace heart comes out. He checks to me, and question is are there any hands that he would have continued, that he would have led? And I kind of feel like maybe full house. That's about it. But that's 4.5%. So I think what he's looking at are these hands or weak pairs. And when he checks to me, the question is, can we get a little bit of value from those hands? So I think if he's called down this way, we could probably get him to fold these weak pairs if we bet large enough. Like if we just push him all in, he could probably fold them. Would we necessarily do that with our bluffing hands? Because we've got a top pair hand now. Would we bet that? I mean, I can't even say these hands are going to be pure bluffs anymore. Even though the ace is out there, I don't think Villain has shown anything to suggest that he's calling with like an ace X hand. The only thing I could think of is maybe he has ace 10, but even then, you know, that our original range has to be off. I think he's tight enough where he might not have ace 10, or it's a really small possibility that he has ace 10. So what can I bet to get calls from weaker hands? And I think I probably should have gone something maybe like 20, go like a third, or maybe even go a little bit smaller, maybe like a 16, you know, get it closer to like a quarter pot, and then get him to call. So I didn't, I think I missed a bet here. He shows jack, and definitely I think that's a hand that would have called, definitely here. And if we say that's what he's only calling, you know, 83% are those pocket pairs. We have queens. You know, if we do top pair and unders, you know, we're still at, you know, 77%. So I think we should have probably, I think we missed the bet here on the river. So just out of curiosity, let's see what we can do for GTO. All right, so I've got most of it set up. Let's get our other range. Let's build our tree. I don't think I got our starting pot. So 19.4. And our effective stack is mine, 93. All right, so we are going to we'll set up default bet size as 50%. Build tree, okay. And then we're going to edit the tree, and we're going to say he always checks. And then for us, we bet 50%. Add action, we're going to say 30%. And we're going to check the slightly smaller size here. And see how it works. So we'll run this and we'll be back. Alright, so I changed my default bet size to 33%, since that's what we did on the turn, but I still left the 33% and the 50% here. So we keyed in that the villain was going to check, and then it looks like half pot sizing on the flop is definitely preferred. That's kind of what I was thinking, and it looks like we are betting with basically 100% of our range. So we were spot on for that. Villain's going to be calling. GTO doesn't have him check raising anything, and I think it's probably okay. A little surprised pocket tens isn't going to check raise, but then again, when we look at you know, what kind of hands does he have, you know, in terms of draws, there's really not a whole lot. There's no, you know, good straight draw in his range. There's no flush draw in his range. There's no flush draw for the board, just like backdoor flush draw, and that means if you don't have some of those strong semi-bluff hands, you're going to be less likely to check raise with trips. So I just always have to remember that when I'm playing. So flop bet looks okay, and I did I bet half pot there. So then we got the 4 hearts. So villain's supposed to check again, which is what he did, and now it's a bet, and we're betting 71%. So that was basically what we were looking at again. So we had about 50% was our over pairs, and then we're gonna be playing some of those. I did like ace kings, but it looks like you have you know sometimes your ace king suited, and then half of your ace king off, half of your ace queen off, and that kind of makes sense to me. I was trying to figure out how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna split it to where like an ace, a king, or a queen could help? Um, and that would mean we're gonna have to split it. So thing is like it looks like he's going for the hearts. Um, and I guess that makes sense. You know, more likely to bet with the hearts because if you're gonna get called by like the backdoor two card backdoor flush draws, you're gonna be getting called by the diamonds, the spades, and the clubs, and not the hearts. So if we have the hearts, it ensures that villain has more of those in his range, and also with yeah, I think that's what it is. So betting a quarter, I think we did okay. Um, why is that so large? Oh, you know what? I know what it is. This is all about getting it in easy, getting it in quickly. That's what it is. Because of stack sizes. Um, so we might have to adjust that. But so we bet he calls. Let's get the ace of hearts out there. Um, Villain should be betting with the tens at this point. He doesn't. He checks. So then the question was, do we continue betting? And it does look like it. Looks like GTO has us shoving, getting us all in, preparing us to get all in. So doing it with trip aces. Kings are the only hand. Looks like kings, and then a couple ace kings that we're checking. Not entirely sure why, because at this point I just don't think villain's gonna have a whole lot of ranges. He's folding those aces, so really it just kind of comes down to these pocket pairs that he has. Um, so you know, he checks to us, and then we bet. I'm not sure why we don't want to bet with a king. So we bet here, and he's supposed to call with kings and tens. So I guess maybe that's why. Maybe with our bet, we're turning queens into a bluff. Because kings might, you know, we're gonna get some folds. Um, I mean, I know it's GTO, but I just feel like when that ace comes, I feel like we're supposed to be betting, and I know the balance. We got to deal with the balance, but um, I just think we bet it's gonna be hard for villain to fold the jacks and the queens. I really do. Um, so maybe the sizing by betting larger, we're making it harder for him to call. But you know, so exploitatively, if he's going to call with the jacks and queens, we should be betting kings. I think that's it. Even though GTO says otherwise, I think that's what we're going to be doing. So overall, yeah, I missed some value on it. I like the flop. I think the flop C bet was good. The sizing was good. That's what's recommended. Um, and then GTO's trying to get us all in, so I need to think about that as you know. Make sure on a hand like this, just let's get it in. Let's not go smaller to try to encourage calls. We bet right that villain's gonna still be calling with all of those. Let's try to get maximum value uh, from our hands. So lost some value, but I still won the hand. So lots of value with the sizing, lots of value by not betting the river, and I think not betting the river was the biggest mistake here. There's nothing that how he was playing that would suggest that he has that ace. So we should bet and try to get that little bit left of that equity or the EV. All right, so hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, look tomorrow. I'm going to try to do a hand over the weekend.
two hands over the weekends, but it's the weekend, so who knows. If you don't see it over the weekend, look on Monday.